Hey, welcome back. If you're over 60 and you've been drinking bone broth every morning because someone told you it would save your muscles, I want you to keep watching, because what I'm about to share with you is backed by some of the most exciting research in senior nutrition right now, and it might completely change what you put on your plate. I'm not here to bash bone broth, it has its benefits. But when it comes to actually rebuilding lean muscle mass after 60, the kind of muscle that keeps you strong, independent, and feeling like yourself, bone broth alone is genuinely not going to cut it. Not even close. So let's talk about it. First, let's name what's actually happening in your body after 60. There's a condition called sarcopenia. It sounds clinical, but all it means is the gradual loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength that comes with aging. And here's the thing most people don't realize: sarcopenia doesn't just make you feel weak, it raises your risk of falls, fractures, metabolic disease, and even cognitive decline. Research published in the journal Age and Aging has confirmed that muscle loss is one of the strongest predictors of reduced quality of life in older adults. After the age of 30, most people lose somewhere between 3 and 5% of their muscle mass per decade. But after 60, that rate can accelerate significantly, especially if you're sedentary, not eating enough protein, or dealing with chronic low-grade inflammation. By the time many people hit their late 60s or early 70s, they've lost 20 to 30% of the muscle they had in their prime. Now, here's the part that actually gives me hope, and should give you hope too. Muscle is one of the most responsive tissues in the human body. Even in your 70s and 80s, the right nutritional and exercise stimulus can absolutely trigger new muscle protein synthesis. Your body hasn't given up on building muscle. It just needs the right signals. So let's talk about bone broth for a minute, because I know a lot of you love it, and it has been genuinely trendy in the senior health space for the last several years. Bone broth contains collagen peptides, and collagen is a protein. So far, so good. It also contains glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, amino acids that support connective tissue, joint health, and gut integrity. Those are real benefits. I'm not dismissing them, but here's the problem when it comes to building skeletal muscles specifically. Collagen is what scientists call an incomplete protein. It's missing or has very low levels of several essential amino acids. Most critically, it is extremely low in leucine. Leucine is the trigger. It is the amino acid that acts like a switch in your muscle cells, activating a pathway called mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin, which is the primary signal for muscle protein synthesis. Without adequate leucine, your body simply does not get the message to build new muscle tissue. A cup of bone broth gives you roughly 2 to 4 grams of protein with almost no leucine. Compare that to what your muscles actually need, and you can see the gap. Research from the University of Texas Medical Branch, led by Dr. Blake Rasmussen, has shown that older adults need significantly more leucine per meal than younger adults to trigger the same anabolic response, the same muscle-building response. This is a real phenomenon called anabolic resistance. Your muscles become less sensitive to the protein signal with age, so you need more high-quality, leucine-rich protein, not less. So what is the food I'm talking about? What can actually build muscle like you're 40 again after 60? The answer, supported by decades of peer-reviewed research, is eggs, specifically whole eggs, and more broadly, high-quality animal proteins rich in leucine. But eggs in particular deserve a spotlight because they are one of the most complete, bioavailable, leucine-rich, and affordable muscle-building foods on the planet. Let me give you the science. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2017, conducted by researchers at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, compared the muscle protein synthesis response in young men who ate either whole eggs or egg whites after resistance exercise. They matched the protein content exactly. Same amount of protein, just different forms. The result was striking. Whole eggs triggered significantly greater muscle protein synthesis than egg whites alone, even though the protein content was identical. Why? Because the egg yolk, contains a combination of nutrients, including phospholipids, micronutrients like zinc, and bioactive compounds that appear to enhance the muscle building response to protein in a way that isolated protein sources can't replicate. The researchers theorized that the fatty acids in the yolk may help with leucine uptake and utilization at the cellular level. One large egg contains about 6 to 7 grams of complete protein, with roughly 550 milligrams of leucine. 3 whole eggs, a perfectly reasonable breakfast, gives you more than 1.6 grams of leucine, which approaches the threshold many researchers identify as the minimum leucine dose needed to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis in older adults. Now, I want to be very specific here because you deserve information that's relevant to your age group, not just general fitness advice aimed at 25-year-olds. A study published in the journal Nutrients in 2021 looked specifically at protein intake patterns and lean muscle mass in adults over 65. The findings were consistent with what researchers have been showing for years. Older adults who consumed higher amounts of leucine-rich, high-quality protein, including eggs, dairy, and lean meats, retained significantly more muscle mass over time compared to those who relied on plant-based proteins or incomplete sources. This doesn't mean plant proteins are useless, but it does mean that for muscle preservation specifically in older adults, the quality and leucine content of protein matters enormously. Another important study from researchers in the Netherlands, the LASSA study, found that higher dietary protein intake in adults over 65 was independently associated with lower rates of muscle mass loss over a 3-year period. The protective effect was strongest in people who distributed their protein across all 3 meals rather than concentrating it at dinner, which is what many older adults do by habit. This is critical. Your muscles can only use so much protein at one time. Research suggests that roughly 25 to 40 grams of high-quality protein per meal is the effective range for triggering muscle protein synthesis in older adults. Eating 10 grams at breakfast and 60 grams at dinner means you're essentially wasting the protein potential of that big dinner. Spread it out. I mentioned leucine several times already, and I want to come back to it because it's genuinely that important. Dr. Donald Lehman at the University of Illinois, one of the world's leading protein researchers, has spent decades studying leucine thresholds and muscle metabolism. His work, along with research from groups at Maastricht University in the Netherlands, has consistently shown that older adults need to hit a leucine threshold of approximately 2.5 to 3 grams per meal to maximally activate muscle protein synthesis. Why the higher requirement compared to younger people? Because of anabolic resistance. The muscle-building machinery in older cells is less sensitive. It's not broken, it just needs a stronger signal. Think of it like a light switch that used to respond to a gentle touch, but now needs a firmer press. The switch still works, you just have to push harder. Here's how different foods stack up per serving in terms of leucine content. 3 whole eggs give you approximately 1.6 grams. A 6-ounce serving of chicken breast gives you around 3.5 grams. A cup of Greek yogurt gives you roughly 1.2 grams. A cup of cottage cheese delivers about 2.5 grams. A 6-ounce salmon fillet provides around 3 grams. So while eggs are excellent, you want to think about combining them strategically with other leucine-rich foods or making sure your meals are hitting that 2.5 gram leucine target consistently across the day. There's one more piece of this puzzle that I don't want to skip over, because it's especially relevant for people over 60. Chronic low-grade inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging, is one of the primary drivers of accelerated muscle loss in older adults. When your body is in a constant low-level state of inflammation, it tips the balance away from muscle building and toward muscle breakdown. Inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha and interleukin-6 actively interfere with muscle protein synthesis pathways. This is where the egg yolk becomes even more interesting. Egg yolks are rich in choline. One large egg contains roughly 147 milligrams, making eggs one of the best dietary sources of this nutrient. Choline plays a role in reducing inflammatory signaling, supports acetylcholine production, which is critical for neuromuscular function, and contributes to liver health. Eggs also contain lutein, zeaxanthin, and various phospholipids that have demonstrated anti-inflammatory properties in research settings. A study published in Nutritions in 2018 found that consuming whole eggs in the context of a mixed diet was associated with favorable changes in inflammatory biomarkers in healthy adults. So you're not just getting muscle-building protein, you're potentially reducing the inflammatory environment that was working against your muscles in the first place. Alright, let's get practical. Because research is only useful if you can actually apply it. Here's what the science suggests. If you're over 60 and serious about maintaining or building muscle, aim for 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For a 160-pound person, that's roughly 87 to 116 grams of total protein daily. For a 180-pound person, we're talking about 98 to 130 grams. This is higher than the outdated RDA of 0.8 grams per kilogram, which was set as a minimum to prevent deficiency, not to optimize muscle health in aging adults. Distribute that protein across 3 meals. Aim for 25 to 40 grams of protein per meal, with at least 2.5 grams of leucine. A breakfast of 3 whole eggs with a side of Greek yogurt can get you there. A lunch of grilled chicken or canned salmon on a salad covers you. A dinner of fish, lean beef, or turkey completes the picture. Pair your protein intake with resistance exercise. Even 2 to 3 sessions per week of moderate resistance training dramatically amplifies the muscle-building response to protein. You don't need to be in a gym 6 days a week, but some form of resistance stimulus, whether it's weights, resistance bands, or bodyweight training, is essential. Protein without the stimulus is like pouring fertilizer on soil with no seeds. The environment is ready, but nothing is planted. Stay hydrated. Muscle protein synthesis depends on adequate cellular hydration. Many older adults are chronically mildly dehydrated without knowing it. Aim for at least 6 to 8 glasses of water per day, more if you're active. I know what some of you are thinking. You've been told for years that eggs, especially the yolks, are bad for your heart because of cholesterol. I need to address this directly and clearly. The relationship between dietary cholesterol and cardiovascular risk has been substantially revised by the scientific community over the last 15 years. The 2015 and 2020 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committees both removed the previous cap of 300 milligrams of dietary cholesterol per day, stating that dietary cholesterol is no longer a nutrient of concern. Major meta-analyses have found that for most healthy adults, moderate egg consumption, defined as up to 1 egg per day, or even higher in some studies, does not significantly increase cardiovascular risk. A comprehensive meta-analysis, published in the British Medical Journal in 2020, which reviewed data from over 177,000 individuals across 6 countries, found no significant association between egg consumption and cardiovascular disease, heart failure, or mortality. Now, context matters. If you have type 2 diabetes, some research suggests a more cautious approach may be warranted, and you should have that specific conversation with your doctor. But for the majority of people over 60 without diabetes or pre-existing severe cardiovascular disease, eggs are not the cardiovascular villain they were once made out to be. Let me wrap this up with the key takeaways. Sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, is real. It's accelerating after 60, and it matters for your independence, your mobility, and your quality of life. Bone broth has a place in a healthy diet, particularly for joint and gut support, but it is not a muscle-building food. It lacks the leucine and complete amino acid profile your muscles need. Whole eggs are one of the most scientifically supported, practical, and affordable muscle-building foods you can eat after 60. They provide complete protein, optimal leucine levels, bioactive compounds in the yolk that enhance muscle protein synthesis, and anti-inflammatory nutrients like choline and lutein. The research is clear. Older adults who consume adequate amounts of high-quality, leucine-rich protein distributed evenly across meals preserve significantly more muscle mass over time. Add resistance training to that equation, and you are giving your body the best possible chance to maintain strength, function, and vitality well into your 70s and 80s. You are not too old to build muscle. Your body is not done. It just needs the right fuel, and now you know what that is. If this was helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I put out new content on senior health, nutrition, and longevity every week. Drop a comment below and let me know. Are you already eating eggs regularly? And have you noticed a difference in your energy or strength? I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself, because you absolutely can.